All right. Good evening, everyone. Good day around the world and friends in Australia. I think we are live now. Let's just double check. I think we are live. So, welcome to the Music as Voyage channel. So, let me just double check if you're really live. And yes, we're live. So, welcome everyone around the world, my friends in Australia, in Brazil, Italy, Argentina, United States, and everywhere in the world. So this is the Music as Voyage channel. So welcome, my name is Luis. Let me tell you a bit, let me introduce myself. So I've been a musician for almost 20 years now, playing and teaching music. And I've been living in Australia since 2015 when I came to do my master's degree here. So since then, since 2015, I've been traveling a lot actually, meeting lots of musicians in different cultures, in different countries. And some of these meetings were recorded in video, and you can find these videos here in the channel. But tonight is the 5th edition of these live talks, the Four Corners of Conversation. So tonight I bring in 3 of these amazing musicians that I met in Australia. They come from different parts of the world, and now they are calling Australia home. So I don't want to talk anymore. I want to bring my guests to the stage here. So I would like to introduce you guys to one of my best friends now. So amazing singer, amazing person. Let me invite Rossella Fanelli.
Ciao, Luis. How are you?
Ciao. Really good, and you?
Much. Very good. Thank you so much for calling me for this beautiful event and idea. I really like to share my opinion and my experience here in Australia.
All right, my pleasure.
Thank
All
you.
right, so let me invite you as well, actually, to another great musician that you introduced it to me. So
Yep.
also, and he's my hermano from Argentina, Marcos.
Is mute.
Marcos, welcome. Can you hear us?
You have to.
Are you okay?
There you go. Now,
All right, now we can hear you.
how are you guys?
Really good. And just a moment, now I'm gonna call. So this guy actually, he's one of my teachers from my master's degree in Australia. And if I'm still a musician and if I'm still here in Australia working with music, he's quite responsible for that. He was really important right at the beginning. So I would like to invite Chris Fields.
Hey.
Yes. So I don't know if you guys met, but this is Rossella, Marcos, Chris, Rossella, Marcos.
Nice to
Hey,
meet you.
everybody. Nice to meet you too.
Are you in US right now?
No. I'm in Australia.
Because it looks so bright.
Oh, well, there you go.
So what have you been doing in Australia that you're so...
I don't know. Who knows?
All right, but as I was saying, so Chris was one of the first musicians I met, actually. He's a teacher at the university I came to study for my master's degree. And he gave me like amazing support, introduced me to people, and motivating me, actually. So I'm going to tell a bit more after in this conversation. But thanks to you, Chris, I'm still here and I'm still a musician. So that beginning was really important. So you don't know, really grateful for you, man.
My pleasure.
So, all right. So we are all talking from Australia, but we all came from somewhere else in the world. So actually, I would like you guys to give us a little introduction about where you come from, since when you're in Australia, and what have you been doing with music here in Australia? So maybe Rossella, want to start?
Of course. All right. So, hello everyone. I am Rossella. I come from Italy, from the south of Italy, an amazing place called Puglia. My region is Puglia. And I moved to Australia 2 years and a half ago. And since then, I can say that I can live from music, but it didn't happen so easily. So yeah, I mean, the story is very long, but I can say that I make an income from music. I teach and I am a professional singer. I perform with an Italian duo. So I bring my Italian tradition here in Australia, and nothing else. Do I have to be short or can I be longer?
Well, I think you're gonna have lots of time during this live.
Yeah.
So maybe that was a good introduction. Let's bring everyone's,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna have some questions for you.
Good,
All right.
good.
So Marcos, what about you? I think you are in Australia for a bit longer.
Yeah, yeah. So I came 2010 from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and yeah. So the idea, my partner came here to do a PhD, so I just followed, and not knowing what was going to happen, and not knowing anyone, and here I am, 10 years later, 2020, surviving COVID and all those sort of things. And yeah, Australia's been good to me, I should say. Um, Started doing gigs. I play bass mostly, and started doing gigs. I actually did a couple of gigs with Chris. Barry, you don't remember?
No, I recognize you. Who was that with again?
That was a covers band,
Oh,
Almost
wow.
Famous, with
Oh man, that was
with
like ages ago.
yeah, I think it was
Cool.
2011. One of the first bands I played with. Actually, we did maybe 2 or 3 gigs only.
Yeah, man.
Eh,
Nice to see you again.
Yeah. So yeah, and since then, playing as much as I can, teaching, and I've been writing music lately, composing music for film and TV and other bits. So as any musician anywhere in the world, you need to do a lot of things at the same time. So but yeah, it's been good.
Awesome, Marcos. What about you, Chris? Since when you're in Australia, what have you been doing here?
Oh man, well look, I think I've probably been here the longest. I might even be a bit older than most of you guys. So yeah, so I came in 2001 when I was like 25 years old. So I'd been touring, doing shows all over the U.S., Mexico, Caribbean, stuff like that. Came out and I met a dancer, came to Australia. She was from Sydney. And yeah, look, I have to say it was tough. I mean, I feel like definitely you, Luis, and actually even Marcos as well. I mean, I come from an older musical family, I suppose. So I kind of did it the hard way. I didn't even have drums. I turned up. It took 6 months for my drums to arrive. I had to ship them from Puerto Rico. But I started gigging immediately. Like once I got them and I had a car, I did some auditions and I started gigging. But I've been here, it's been almost 20 years and I've done every major festival in Australia and played at every venue and I've been very lucky, to play with quite a large number of people, released my own albums and then gone on and done stuff overseas. And now I'm finding that, yeah, I mean, for about 10 years, I've been teaching up-and-coming musicians in Australia and from overseas, including Luis, and being involved in that. So, yeah, I don't know how that happens. It feels like I've been here for a year, but it'll be 20 years next year. So, yeah.
Yeah, time flies so fast. Actually, I feel really fresh as well. So I'm been here for 5 years now. 5 years, but time flies so fast. So,
Yeah.
Chris, let me just ask you, because I know you're the third generation of musicians in your family. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you mentioned, but of course, you come from a country where the music scene is huge. So the reason for you to come to Australia was love, then, wasn't music.
Yeah, look, I mean, to be honest, especially at that period, if I did meet a few other musicians from the United States, they all came for that. I never imagined I was going to wind up in Australia, and in fact, my colleagues were like, "What are you doing?" Because I was doing okay. I was young, but I was doing okay. So. But I have to say the scene was a little different then too. There was a lot happening. So I remember I came to visit and I met a couple of people and I went out and saw some stuff and I was like, you know what, I can do well here. Like it was quite vibrant. It's changed a lot in the period of time I've been here. So yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, like Australia was like this crazy thing. I never thought, and I had no plan. It wasn't like I came to study or anything. I was just like, came for love and all that stuff. And here I am. So.
All right. So it's nice that you brought this subject about the scene. So, but I'm gonna come back to this later. So,
Sure.
And what about you, Rossella? What brought you here?
Well, it was a very weird story, I can say, because I've been working as a singer in some hotels around the world with some Italian companies, tour operator companies, and after a while, like I took a gap year before coming here, so I was stuck in Puglia, my region, but I felt after 1 year I had to leave because over there for me there were no possibilities as much as I wanted. And so one night I was so depressed because in music there are up and down, and you really get used to that. But it was a real down in that October 2017, and I was really asking, a question to the universe, an answer to the universe, like, please tell me what I have to do next. I don't know where to go. I was looking for some contracts all around the world to go back into the hotels or into the cruise ship, but nothing was coming. And so one night I literally dreamt to come to Australia and to play Italian music, which is weird. Probably my subconscious knew it, but I didn't know. I thought about Australia, like I was hearing a lot of people saying, "Oh, about the working holiday visa," but I never thought I could apply for a visa like that because I was 29 years old, and that visa expire, like you can apply up to 31. So I was almost there, so I never thought I could do it on time. But this dream came to me, and the day after, I remember clearly, the day after, like I woke up and I opened my laptop and I started to research because I didn't know anything about Australia. So I started to research if I could make it. Somehow, I don't know how, 1 week later, I had my flight and my visa, and 1 month later, I came here without knowing anyone, without any contract, without any friend, by myself. Without any accommodation. I've been, I've been living in a hostel for a couple of weeks, looking for an apartment. But I was already like, I felt Australia was sending me positive vibes since then. I don't know why, because I remember I put an ad on Italiania Sydney, the group of the Italians in Sydney, asking for some musicians because I had already this idea. Okay, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna play Italian music, but I didn't know how. So the first thing was putting a simple ad on Facebook, and there were some people answering to me, and there were two guys in particular, the Bellis brothers, that I don't know if they're gonna follow it, that they contacted me because they were managing the Italian entertainment in the biggest Italian clubs, the historical clubs here. So they needed a singer, and I started singing 5 days after that I arrived to Australia, so that I moved here. So I mean, my first gig was just 5 days after that I landed here. So I think I was really lucky about that. And I started gigging with them for 1 year, around 1 year, but I couldn't sustain myself. So I was working as a waitress. I've been working as a waitress for 1 year full time, and then in the weekend I was doing some gigs. And but I really liked Australia since the beginning, and I felt like probably I need to find some solution to stay. so
But I didn't know you were that crazy to come like that. So
Yeah,
I knew you were a
yeah,
bit
that's
crazy,
right.
but not that much.
Yeah.
Let me just remind you guys, we are in a pub table
Yeah.
here or in a restaurant.
Right.
So every time someone wanna interfere, don't wait for my
Okay,
questions.
okay.
But anyway,
Not a problem.
I have a question.
Okay.
So it's really nice that Rossella say that she's really connected to the Italian community here. So, and Marcos, you came also because of love, no? You say
Yeah.
you're coming with your wife at the time that
Yeah.
was coming to study. But did you connect to the Argentinian community of South American community, or how that happened? You start with music here.
So when we first came, we shared a house with an Argentinian guy, and who's married to a Brazilian woman, actually.
Mm.
So through them, we met a few other South American people, and they introduced me to one keyboard player that I still play some days, every once in a while, an Argentinian guy, and I kind of got into the South American community, but not too much. I was escaping a little bit that. I came trying not to get too mingle. I was actually looking forward to meet people from anywhere else in the world except Argentina. So,
I think
I
I
had the
met
same
you-
feeling.
Is that when I met? Because I think I met you. I don't think you had been there that long when we played
No.
together.
Look, I think we came 2010, and I guess that by the end of 2010, I did a few gigs, filling gigs for that covers band, and that's where we
Right?
played.
Yeah. Because I remember,
And-
yeah, I distinctly remember, and I wasn't sure if you were staying in the country. I didn't even realize you were still in Australia.
Yeah,
So
right.
We'll have to reconnect.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I did one gig. One of the first gigs I did, Herman, this friend, Argentinian friend, called me for a gig, and was like this big South American party, and they were looking for a bench, so they put something together for it, and we were there just for the food, right? There was no money. We went there just to get some barbecue happening. I was craving some asado, and so we went there, and we just played for the food and drinks, and but yeah, that was kind of the first kind of gigs I did. I did a lot of busking. I played a lot in the street for almost 2 years, which was totally new for me. Like similar story like of Chris. In Buenos Aires, I was doing okay. I was doing very well actually with music, and I had my network, my friends, my bands. I had a studio, and at one point said, "All right, time to move on." I was a bit tired, and I guess like many other immigrants, you move to a different country and you do stuff that you never did before.
Yeah.
Like basking in the street. I've never done that. I have never done that before.
How did you feel with basking, Marcus? Doing it?
I loved it. I loved it. It's brutal. It's
It is.
brutal honesty. If people likes what you do, they stay for a second and give you money. If you don't like it, they just keep walking.
But
I did
it's
it
funny.
too.
It's funny that you say that because I had come from playing like big band shows, jazz, Afro-Cuban stuff, and my first gig in Australia, I was playing like Irish rock. Like because
Irish rock wasn't that you too is Irish rock.
No. We were doing that, but it was funny because that's not my background. I mean, I had done it.
Right.
I'd done session work and all that stuff. But I wound up like playing in Irish, like I opened almost every Irish pub in Sydney, and that was something I had no background in, other than I could play like whatever. I was like, yeah, I'll play that, but yeah, you got to do what you got to do as a musician anywhere,
Yeah.
and then you start getting to do all the other stuff eventually,
Yeah.
like, and it's just what it is, So yeah.
Yeah, I guess also learning. I remember the first covers gigs I did that I had to learn a lot of music that I never heard before. That maybe were big hits in Australia and
Yeah.
no idea what they were talking about. Never heard of Cold Chisel.
No.
Never heard of any of those Aussie rock thing that you normally play on pubs sometimes.
Yeah, that's it. And the same. It was the same for me. I mean, I had come from, like Jerry Gonzalez and the Fort Apache Band and all this stuff, and then like I was learning about the Cranberries and Cold Chisel, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, let me just ask, Rossella, are you wearing using the earphones? I don't know if that's some reverb come from somewhere. Or some
no,
noise.
I'm not using it. I don't have it.
Yeah. All right. Look, let's keep going easy like this. But Chris, let me ask you, because you were talking about the connection with the community, and then of course you come from United States, which have like a huge story in jazz and in rock as well.
Yeah.
But you actually more connected to other rhythms, like from Cuba and from South America, Africa, India. So did you connect straight away to those communities?
Sort of. So I think the first thing that was important for me when I got here was that I connected, because I'd been learning tabla, North Indian tabla for quite a while, and
let me actually put your website here online so people can find a bit of your work.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And I mean, I grew up from more of a jazz kind of improvisatory world music stuff. I mean, I was playing in Latin jazz bands that some of Tito's guys would come play with us, and I had sort of come from that, and then Indian classical music and all this stuff. And I have to say that when I arrived, I mean, social media wasn't what it is now, so it was all word of mouth, So like you couldn't put stuff out. I had CDs. I think I might have put together one of the first sort of like Q-bop groups, and no one even knew what that was, and it was hard because I didn't know what was around, and you gotta, for me, I have to be honest, I wanted to make sure that I could survive and actually do okay as a musician. I'd come from being like a session player as well as all my other stuff, so my first thing was just I got to play with pros and I got to play whatever I can possibly do, but I did meet my tabla guru. That was one of the first things that happened here. I met an incredible tabla master who's about 90 years old now, and that led to 10 or 11 years of connection. And then, so I made connection with that community very early. I don't remember a lot of South Americans at that time when I arrived. In fact, I was actually shocked because I didn't really see a Latino community or anything in 2001. There was a little bit. But like, I mean, I've since remarried. I mean, my wife is from Brazil. In the last 10 years, I mean, it's suddenly exploded, and which is amazing. It's really been a lot. But, most of the musicians that were playing Afro-Cuban music or Peruvian music and stuff had actually been born in Australia. We didn't get a lot coming from overseas. And so, it took me a while. I mean, I used to speak fluent Spanish until I came here, and then I spent 10 years not speaking it, and then it was like, oh, okay, So it's I did make those connections, and I have done some of those gigs here, obviously, but it took a while because it wasn't as you couldn't network as easily. It was literally just word of mouth. That's all that really existed, So yeah.
All right. It's funny, when I arrived at the University AIM, I was talking to Michael Galeazzi, which was who was the coordinator at the time, and I asked him. So I said, I want to connect with some musicians. Do you have any band practice, any ensemble where I can practice rock or jazz? No. And then he asked me, where are you from? I say, Brazilian. And he said, well, we have a Cuban band that you can join.
Yeah.
Then I say, no. I say, no, I would like to play rock or jazz because that's the Australian thing. They say, no, you're Brazilian, you need to go to the Cuban band. Then I say, wait. Then I say, wait, I don't even know what the Cuban music is. It's completely different than my background. No, exactly. Then he say, no, you need to go to meet this Cuban band. Then I went to the rehearsal. When I opened the door, there was an American drummer, Chris Fields. There was a Chilean singer, Madalena. There was the bass player. I think he was from Philippines, Dominique, or something like that. And the pianist was Serbian, which was Mirko. So that was the Cuban band and they were playing Corcovado. They were playing Corcovado in the first rehearsal. Then I say, that's Australia, this mix of influences, mix of cultures.
I never called it a Cuban band. That was I've always had a problem with that.
Well, the others were calling that a Cuban band anyway.
I know.
All right, let me bring Rossella into the conversation again. So I would like to know what do you feel about the differences and similarities actually working with music in Australia and in Italy, or in the other countries that actually you lived. So
Okay, can you hear me now? I put my
yeah,
beautiful
very good,
call
loud and
center
clear, loud and clear.
call center headphones. All right. Differences like that. I could say my real personal opinion because, like for example, when I was in Italy, um uh, it depends, we grew up in our journey. Okay, so every country where I've been, I had a different awareness about myself, what I am, how I sing, and so on. Like for example, when I came to Australia, I really get into marketing and sales. That made the difference for me because, for example, now I could say, oh, in Italy, I cannot get any gigs as easily as I could do in Australia. But the problem is that probably in Italy I was not aware about how to make good connections, how to make marketing, how to promote myself, you know so I could say that when I was in Italy, for me, it's always been hard to really be into, the networking, the musicians networking. I don't know why. Probably because I come from the south of Italy, so it's not a big city. So there are still a lot of things going on. Like for example, if I wanted to be a wedding singer, probably I could, but with the right, tools, marketing tools, or knowing better the community, immersing myself better into the networking. But I didn't have that feeling. I don't know why. I didn't find myself close to that kind of mechanism. I don't know. When I moved to Australia, I started, after being a waitress, I started to attend as a school to have my visa, a student visa, and I choose a marketing school, and that gave me a lot, really, the perception of what I want to be, how can I achieve what I want to do. And they give me more or less all the tools, and then there is a lot of personal analysis, understanding what you want to do, and how you want to live your best life. And I am really following that. Like, I'm not doing anything crazy, like playing in big stages or whatever. Like, I mean, the
Not
goal is
yet, not
not
yet.
yet, not
Give
yet.
it time.
The goal is that, but in Australia, the fact is that I can do 2 gigs a week, and I can pay my rent, I can pay my food, and I can pay my transportation, which is the most important things. Plus, I got the visa to pay, so I need to, put apart more money. My school. And but like I think that that's the main difference is the economic aspect. Because in Italy I used to have the similar gigs, but if they give me 50 euros, I cannot pay my rent. Like, I am forced to live in my parents' house, and it's so hard to say goodbye to your parents, to go, "Hey, I'm gonna live by myself in the next door, house," because the town is so small. And
I was just
tell me.
I just had a question. I was just wondering, because you're singing in like mostly in the Italian community. I mean, there's also, I'm wondering if it's also the fact that, like, I mean, how there would be a lot of competition in Italy, right? As
Probably.
far as so and it's one of those things. So there's that combination of maturing and being better at doing what you're doing, and then also realizing that there's kind of a market that you can fit into that's a bit different, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this sounds really bad. I think it's the plus and minus from being from overseas. Like, it's like Luis talking about having to play Brazilian music or being thrown in with the South American stuff. When he was a rock musician, as soon as I met him, I was like, this dude wants to just thrash out, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
but you kind of get put into that, right, in a certain way. But that can also be a positive thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even though the Italian community is huge also in Australia,
Yeah.
no? But it's nice that we have the Jazz Amore Australia, which is your Italian work, right?
That's awesome.
when I moved to Australia, I forced myself to learn the Italian old school repertoire because I knew that it could be so powerful here. I never sang those songs in Italy. I never
Yeah.
would sing, an Italian old school repertoire because like bossa nova in Brazil, people there nowadays don't really listen that. At least you are not, a really niche person and you are really looking for, the beautiful tradition of your country because that is really powerful, like because more you move out, more you move far, more your Italian tradition or your tradition of your country can be appreciated by others. That's made the difference for me.
Yeah, maybe the distance make us see it differently as
Yeah.
well. So does it happen with Marcos as well? So Marcos, what was the biggest difference and the similarities for each? Do you feel the same about the Argentinian music and culture? Because I know that you're a touring musician already, so you were traveling a lot and you were actually in the music scene.
So for me, one of the biggest difference was the size. Buenos Aires is a massive city. It's 4 times city, right? So even there's a lot of music. There's a lot of things going on. Every single night you can find live music every night. Plenty of bands to check out. So the biggest difference I found with Sydney, at least, maybe not Melbourne, but Sydney, is the lack of original music in a way, right? So I never did 3 sets of covers in my life before. I didn't have to. If I had a function, was 40 minutes in and out, and now you need to do 5 sets, 4 sets, right? But unless original music, or not in the same amount that you can find in Buenos Aires, or back when I was in Buenos Aires, I'm not sure now. That was the biggest difference. But the plus side of that is that I could actually, for the first 3 years in Australia, I just made a living only from playing live, nothing else, no teaching, nothing else. Which for me was rare.
Very good.
Compared to what I was doing in Argentina. I was doing the gigs, the recordings, the teaching, all of that, and I was struggling a little bit. Where with the right amount of work in Sydney, actually, I could make good money. Changed a lot, I think, even from I got the last of the 2010. Chris, you're here from 2001, so you get the best bit of it, from what I understand.
Yeah, it was pumping. It was pretty good. Yeah.
So a lot of the bands I've been working lately, they've been playing for those years. Yeah, they were like playing one band. You could have 4 or 5 gigs a week with the same band all around, and now to do that you need to play in 10 bands to have 5 gigs, and it's impossible, right? Then what the funny differences with the times, having a gig at 7 p.m. is unheard of in Buenos Aires.
Definitely. Good point. Really good point. And also, where to go after the gigs? There's nowhere.
There's nowhere to hang.
At home.
I remember not having dinner before the gig, so I finished the gig. I wanted to have some food at midnight. Everything was closed.
Good point.
And I used to start gigs at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. back in Buenos Aires. I started at 4 a.m. maybe, So
No way.
But yeah, I think you're bringing up a good thing, Marcos. Though, is I think that the original kind of creative music side of it, of live performing, has always been more difficult here, and it's gotten more difficult. There were a lot more venues. Like, I mean, I was very fortunate to play at the Basement when it was really happening with a lot of originals groups and jazz groups and things like that. I mean, there were those clubs, but even some of the stuff that existed left. And I think it's just a population issue, like, it doesn't matter how good your group is, and if you're creating new music and people want to come hear it. I know when I was touring in the US, we would never play the same city more than maybe once in a month, because we wanted to ensure that we got 500 to 1,000 people at every gig. So we toured, right? So was here, I remember I got offered a tour in Australia, and I got the itinerary, and it was like 7 weeks, and I was like, how many gigs is this? And it was like 14 gigs. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, because there's just so much expanse, and you can tire out your market no matter how good. I mean, I can't, with an original project, even with great players, and I've been very fortunate to play with lovely people. Really, if you put on a gig of original music more than once every 2 months, people kind of like, oh yeah, I've seen those guys,
Yeah.
You got to kind of leave them, and so that kind of puts you into a hole, and then it's quite a distance to get to the next place that you can play, right? So it's a tricky one. The population's always kind of working against you, and that kind of a arena. So you've got to be a bit more creative, which we'll see. Yeah.
So guys, I want to remind you guys that we are in Australia, so it's almost 8:40, so last round of questions we need to close.
Oh.
No, just kidding. On the internet, we don't have these rules.
Luis, you haven't really talked a bit about your...
Exactly.
I mean, and
All right, yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have you guys here that I'm happy to listen. Yeah, but actually I have the same feeling that Marcos say. I come from São Paulo, which is like a 12 million people city, like pretty much 24 hours, gigs everywhere, or at least it used to be, So I feel the same. So the lack of original music. I know there are bands, but you don't see where they can play. Actually, you don't have the scene happening. The times are crazy, and then how music is used. I think in Sydney we have the nature that is so beautiful that people want to enjoy the outdoors and wake up early and go to the beach and go to the walking on the bush. I don't know if that's one of the reasons, besides the population, as Chris said as well. But it's a shame because we have lots of good musicians around and a really nice mix because we have musicians from all the world here. So I think it's a really privilege to have such a variety of musicians around.
I think that one kind of plus side of the local laws we had, that closing so many venues in the city that they only had covers. So now I feel like, all the Lazy Bones, those Marriott venues, and that they put original music almost every night. Soda Factory, those places became the place to go to see music, and they were known for original music. So I guess there's a bit more. I feel there's a bit more now of original music than 10 years ago when I first came.
It is. You came right when there was a slump. It was that a lot of those sort of established venues closed, and then places like 505, which sadly closed. But I mean, that used to be in Cameron's apartment. I remember playing in all these original African groups and things like in illegal apartment concerts. That then became a plug, But that came out of necessity. I mean, I think the thing is that those always arrived, and now it's kind of like guerrilla music. I mean, you have to go in and put on shows or be a lot more creative, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a bit tougher. You have to be a bit smarter, in some ways. Like my dad's a musician, and I mean, he's an amazing musician, but there was so much work for him that if you were really good, or if you were even like kind of good, you'd work your brains out, But I think, I think the thing with Luis, I just wanted to mention, because it was one of the reasons we connected, and it's something that's very different about Australia. And I was in shock at how how a country the size, I mean, I've worked with people like Sandy Evans and some people that are really iconic in the Australian creative music scene. And they would stack up against anyone I worked with on the planet or heard. I was really shocked at the quality of musicians when I first arrived, you know? And sort of there was a uniqueness because they were sort of a bit isolated, you know, which was quite a lot more. So when you say there's less creative music, I actually found that was there was actually a lot when I first arrived, which is kind of inspiring. But it kind of did that for a while where the venues changed and now everything's changed for everyone. But one thing I noticed, and I think you might have noticed this too, Luis, and I think maybe all of you, is that, I mean, the US is a bit different. It's got more similarities with the United States, with Australia. But like people in the US, or at least where I grew up, are a lot more open from like the beginning of the time you meet them. So I remember, because everything was word of mouth, like it took a while for anything to, you know, you'd go play, you'd go meet people, and you'd be like, man, this is great, like everything's gonna be awesome, and you're really excited, and you wouldn't hear from them for ages, and then it would be like, oh hey, and then you get a phone call, and it took a lot longer to create those connections, you know. Whereas like, you know, where I grew up, or where probably you guys, you know, you meet someone that's like a musician, and it's like, whoa, come on, man, let's go hang, you know, and play, and you know. And I think
Great.
Yeah.
Great you mentioning that, Chris, because of course I want to ask you guys about the biggest challenge as coming from other country. And I know for me and Rossella and Marcos, probably the language was one biggest challenge. So I don't know if you have any challenge or related to that, or just for the fact that you're from somewhere else. Because I remember you mentioning that you met great musicians, but they were not inviting you, like if they were not considering that you're available or something. Or so what was the biggest challenge, and how were you received as someone from somewhere else?
Sorry.
Chris.
Oh, for me.
Yeah.
Oh, so look, it was different for me because, look, I understood the music, the language that was happening here, you know. So I think for me it was a little bit of a different thing. I had to kind of I had to establish that I was a professional. That was the first thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I hate to say it. I mean, you know, that was one of those things, and I remember getting it burnt out. Like, so I had to go out and like audition and hang out with musicians that were.
So all those jams. Would you go to jams?
No, I didn't. I didn't have to. Like,
right.
I just went to auditions because there were like
right.
companies and agencies. So I did a slightly different thing. I did go to some jams. Yes, I absolutely did. But what I did, which I think was not the worst thing at the time, is that there were working bands that were working 5 times a week, 6 times a week, you know. So I just went and played with those guys for a while, and those guys would have originals projects, and so then I started recording on albums, and then I started doing, you know, tabla stuff, and I was like, oh, this guy knows about tabla. That's really weird. And the thing is that I think the important thing is that I did all of that stuff to meet people, but I never dropped all of my original stuff that was purely for the art, you know. So I always had all of this stuff happening, and I didn't sleep. I had no social life, you know. It was just working and trying to make a living, and then also trying to push forward. And it took a while, you know. But the first step is that you have to be established as like this guy's a pro, because once that happens, you're in. And I had to do the same thing Marcus did. I remember getting called 2 nights before a gig, like a drummer had gotten sick, and I had in 2 consecutive nights, and I learned 6 sets of music in 2 days. And I did. I charted it out. I went in and I nailed it, and I had those gigs after that. You know, yeah. So word gets out. I mean, and then it starts moving from there. You know, but I think the challenge was just that it took a little longer, because I think what I've noticed is that I found that the people here were at the beginning a little bit more reserved, and that included the musicians. But what I did find is I had really good, which was different for me, is that at that time the hustle in America was a lot more. So I'd never had a singer come help me paint a house before, you know, and that happened here, where I actually made friends with people I worked with. Whereas in the US, I mean, it's my profession, you know. It was like, Yeah, I was friends with some people, but not that much. If that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, it's like it's work and it's your workmates.
Yeah, I never really hung out. Like these were guys that these were like my professional colleagues. Whereas here, like I eventually made friends with these people. You know,
even though they were closer at the beginning, more close at the beginning.
In Australia they weren't. In Australia they were a little bit more like, ooh, you know, I didn't even know. I remember working with people and didn't even know if they liked me. You know, I was like, I have no idea.
All right.
What our social, you know, only to, and then like they turn up one day to help you do stuff. And so there was a cultural thing that even without the language, kind of caught me off balance, you know, a little bit. But yeah, that's probably enough for me. What about you guys? I mean, you guys had the language issues and those things, and you know.
Yeah. How was that for you, Rossella?
Well, I could say that I'm still protected by Italian community, I think, at this moment, because because like my main project is just Amore, so I got this duo with another Italian beautiful guitarist. We make Italian music.
Eleonora, it's amazing, guys. You need to go and see this duo. It is amazing. Yeah, you've been to actually many nice things. You sang at the what's the name, Bulgari thing?
We did some events. We collaborate with the big Italian chef. So it's like all and word of mouth for me works a lot into Italian community, because there are plenty of Italian restaurants in every corner of Sydney, you know, and they see each other, you know, the events that one does, like we get noticed to the other restaurants, to the other, you know, chef, or any other events. So I mean, at this moment I feel protected by Italian community, but we are creating another project with Luis, which I esteem so much as a guitarist.
We work together. Actually, we were rehearsing this afternoon.
Yeah, this morning.
No? She helped me pulling the cable to turn my computer on the garage.
But socially distanced with appropriate.
Of course. But
that's the project, Bubble Glam.
Bubble Glam, which is an amazing.
It's already on Instagram. You guys can add as well.
Yeah, we take some 90s thrash dance pop rock music and we make it a little bit elegant with guitar and cello. And so the target, of course, will change. We're gonna hit the Australian target, the Australian venues, and all the Australian pubs, clubs, and everything. So we're gonna, you know, at that point, I think I will see any different, if there will be.
Yeah, but anyway, you still need to contact people on the telephone. You receive emails, and then sometimes we were even this afternoon talking. Say, should I write this in the email? How do you say that? You know, the language. It is a problem to do the marketing and everything. And also because many of those Italian restaurants, they are Italians that were born here. Actually, sometimes they don't even speak Italian. No? So of course the English is really difficult. No? And still today, after 5 years. Talking on the telephone is, you know, is stressing sometimes. So how do you feel, Marcos? Oh, sorry, Rossella, finish.
No, that's okay. I said I learned English by ear, so I studied at school, but a long time ago, but not even, you know, very good. So it's stressful. Like even this, you know, like direct. I don't know how to talk. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna say something wrong. But yeah, I mean, at the end, you know, I think people appreciate the charisma that someone has. So I mean, more than the language, if you have charisma, if you have passion for what you do, I think, you know, it's more powerful than the language.
And I also think musicians, and just leaving you, Marcus, is that musicians from across the world tend to know their own people.
Yeah.
That's what I've always found, you know. So, Marcus, like when I met you, I could tell that you were a pro. You know, you can feel that, you know, and you, Luis, I mean, you can feel that. You don't have to say anything. So please, talk about your experience.
Yeah, for me, it's understanding how the scene works. I remember one of the first audition, when I first came, was not much of social media happening yet. So you have these magazines that you put ads to it, and then you reply to ads and that kind of thing. Or go to Newtown and
Yeah.
grab the
There was a
post.
newspaper.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I went to my first audition, right, or maybe a month in Australia, and I didn't have an amp, anything, right? So we went to a rehearsal studio in Alexandria. I don't know how I got there. I didn't have a car, didn't have an amp. And normally in Buenos Aires, if you go to a rehearsal studio, everything's there. You have drums, amps, everything, right?
Oh yeah, that's
And I
another
realized that
difference actually in Australia.
no.
Yeah.
So I just got there with my bass.
The rehearsal
Yeah.
studios, they just like empty room.
Yeah,
Really?
exactly.
Yeah.
I've never
didn't know
seen that in my life, that a drummer
Yeah.
needs to bring
Yeah.
your whole kit and set up to
No,
rehearse.
you have
That's-
to rent. You have to rent it, man. It's
Yeah.
or rent it. Yeah, that's bizarre. No, if you go in São Paulo, they are full room. No, it's
Yeah,
all
same.
I
complete,
discovered.
just plug and
I've
play.
been there now.
Yeah.
That's
Same.
super crazy.
Same in Buenos Aires. So I got to my first audition with no gear. So I get into the room. People tell me, "Do you need help to carry your stuff?" What stuff? I've got my bass.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I didn't get the gig, right?
Nah. Nope, you
Same
wouldn't.
thing happened with the car, right? I was chatting. I met a guy that recommended me to a country band or something. They had a few gigs lined up in a week. They need someone. They called me. Yes, all good until the question, "Do you have a car?" No. I never needed a car in Buenos Aires to play. It was
Yeah.
catch cabs, share with friends, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be a problem if you don't have a car, because how are you gonna get to gigs?
Yep.
I don't know. Don't worry about it. You tell me what it is. I'll be there. And I didn't get the gigs because I didn't have the car.
Yeah.
It's like you need to know the rules and the ways of where you are. So I just basically went following week when I bought a cheapest car I could find, so I could go to gigs, and that makes a difference. And of course, the usual things of learn your stuff, especially for us, drums and bass, that we always need a band to play, right? So means that a lot of times you need to learn a lot of material for one gig,
Yeah.
and everybody's expecting you to show up and do your stuff right there. And
Right there. Perfect. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So, but yeah, it was, I don't know. Those were just once I knew how things worked, and I started learning the repertoire most people played.
Yeah.
Well, then it becomes easier. Now I can do gigs on the spot, and people shouting out songs that I already know for the last 10 years. That kind of thing.
I had a question about that because I don't know, in Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
See, what I ran into was that a lot of the gigs that I played when I first started in the U.S., they were older jazz guys and stuff. So they had books. You'd rock up and they'd throw out the sheet music. They'd have their charts, right? And I think that was one of the big shocks here.
Sorry, guys, I
was
lost
that-
audio.
You got no audio? Was it no one had charts? Like the gigs, you'd have to learn all the stuff, and there was no charts. And that was sort of unheard of, for me, because that's why you learn how to read, so you don't have to go and learn everything by hand. So I even tell a lot of the singers that come through, the college where you went to school, said, man, get charts in your keys, and if you do that,
this
you'll be
is
able to
something.
get it. Yeah.
This is something very weird for me. Like I never brought charts to my musicians because I mean in Italy we play like by ear. Oh, okay, do you know this note? Yeah, these
Yeah,
chords, and
but
they
that only
just
gets you so
memorize. I
far.
don't know. I think they are genius actually because they
Well, it depends on
memorize
what's
everything.
happening. Yeah, it depends
We
on the
never
kind of
use
music,
charts.
because if you got like 6 horn players, that's not
Yeah,
going to work.
yeah, of course.
Or if it's an arrangement that has to be exact, that's not going to work. And so what
Yeah.
I found that was interesting was that people would expect you to learn precise arrangements, but not provide charts.
Okay.
And there's a difference. I mean, yeah, we all jam by ear. I mean, everyone does that, but that was a huge thing for me, where you get called for a gig on a Thursday. Like, we want you to play 3 sets of music, learn all these tunes. What? Oh, it is to a click track, by the way, so you can't just wing it, right? It has to be right on the money. And normally, I just come from playing like Vegas style shows and stuff, where, you know, you're reading, people would come on, like, you'd back them up with an hour's rehearsal, and it would be like 12-piece band. And you know, some of that happens here, but that was a shock to me. I was like, are you joking? Like, you know, I would never, you know, and then you just learn to do it, you know.
Yeah. Well, maybe after a while you see that many bands, they play the same songs over and over again, so it's kind of a standard set list as well.
Yeah, eventually, but not. It just depends on what you're doing, you know. So that was an interesting one for me, for my training. And I was asking you for the same as a session player in somewhere like Argentina, where you, I mean, I was taught how to read, go in, do sessions in the studio, all that kind of stuff, and then that sort of changed when I came here, you know.
Yeah, can you hear us, Marcos? I think Marcos lost his audio. I don't know if he's hearing now. Anyway, I would like to use this time also to say thank you to people who are commenting. And I think maybe you guys are sharing on your Facebook. Sorry. And yeah, we can hear you, Marcos. And also I would like to remember like my first show with you, Chris, because of course I arrived, I didn't have my guitar as well at the time. So I remember you invite me to that thing, and it was like a really posh place where we need to use like shirts, and I didn't have it, and you gave me a shirt that night.
I remember that.
So he invited me for a first gig, and that was like psychologically, my performance was terrible because I wasn't practicing, I didn't know the repertoire really well, I didn't have my equipment, didn't even have the clothes. But psychologically, emotionally, that was super important for me, you know.
But that's, you know, it was the same with Mirko and Magdalena. I mean, I think because I had, not to a lesser degree, but because I had been through some of that, you know, I always, and also because it was one of those things that I had always interacted mostly with like for where I grew up, it was a lot of Puerto Rican musicians and stuff, and some Brazilian musicians would come through, and I just kind of knew what that felt like to turn up and not know anybody, you know, because I didn't really have anyone do that. I kind of did what Marcus did. I just went and I did auditions, and it was like no one knew me from a bar of soap, and I had just come from where, you know. So yeah, and I think that was also probably why Michael sent you to me. Wasn't as much for the music, but probably that maybe we would get on a bit, and I did feel that, and you know, and you know, it to come somewhere new and just.
Yeah, I remember in the university, you were the most receptive guy, you know. So and I remember right at the beginning, you were the guy who were coming to find me and saying, "How you going? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I remember in a moment, right at the beginning, the first or second month, I mentioned that I was a bit concerned because I don't know what to do. Of course, all those fears that come. And then I remember you just saying to me, I know you're gonna be all right. It's gonna work, don't worry. So, and that was so important because I knew you're an amazing teacher, amazing musician, and you're saying that thing, just that smile, I'm not worried about you, Luis. I know you're gonna make it. You know,
but I wasn't. I mean, you know, you, and I think that's something that I'm noticing, and I can tell from all of you. Like, I was never as smart, you know, with the whole music thing, and I'm still not. Like, I just played the drums. You know, I turned up and I played the drums, and I did an okay job, and so I started developing a career. You know, but I never thought about, you know, and you had probably more intelligence than I ever had, you know, arriving here, but you just had that thing of like, I'm in a new country, you know, and you're adapting, you know. And so I knew that you would need some support, but I always knew you were going to be fine. Like, you know, so it's just one of those things, but it's important to have that. I mean, I had a few of those people, you know. I met a few creative musicians. There was a bass player, Leon Garrett, who's legendary here, who I met, and I got to do some gigs with. And meeting those key people kind of keep you motivated, you know, and then you keep pushing, because I got really frustrated a few times. I wasn't playing music that I wanted to play necessarily. I was playing with great musicians. I couldn't complain, but it wasn't, you know, I wasn't feeling like I was doing my thing. And then I remember a really great bass player who was from the U.S. that had moved here years ago, said, "Man, is your phone ringing? I mean, if you're getting calls and you're playing, you're doing better than a lot of cats, and that stuff will keep coming. That'll come." And that kind of helped me keep going, because most people don't understand the arts, and they don't understand that it's not just a gig, it's not just a job, it's part of who you are as a person. So your identity is tied up in that, and you need people that can just stop everything for a minute and just go, "Hey, man, you're a musician. You're going to be great. You're going to be fine. Keep going." Because ultimately, musicians are the same. I mean, I just hung out in Sao Paulo, in your town, and I hung out with Ramon Montaner, one of the craziest drummers I've ever met.
All right.
Yeah, man.
Ramon Montaner.
Yeah, sorry, I say it wrong. And
probably I'm saying wrong as well because it's like a different surname. But he's amazing. He has a different system of pedals. That he plays many percussion instruments with the pedals.
And we just hit it off, right? Because we're musicians, we're like, that's what we do, So we hung out in the studio, like, "Hey, man, what are we gonna do?" And when I've gone to India, it's the same. Musicians who are serious about what they do are always the same. So it's really that commitment and that passion that comes through. And if you stick to that, you'll be fine. And that hasn't changed with social media. I mean, with any of my students, the first thing is you got to be passionate, and you got to put in the work, and you got to be good, and that'll come through eventually, and it's really, it's kind of that easy, I mean, it's not easy, but it always boils down to that. So,
So Enovag Music is saying beautiful words, Chris. No, Enovag Music is also a great composer. Also like Marcos' work with film music and everything.
Beautiful.
Nice. Thanks so much, guys. Whoever is watching this on Facebook as well, you also can subscribe to the channel because you help this project keep alive. No, you help keeping this project alive. But you were talking about our essence, when we are all the same, and that's music is not a job. So it's part of who we are as well. So I would like to ask if Rossella would like to show a bit of her Italian music, giving like a little bit of a cappella thing for us, no? Because I think maybe you're the only one who can do it now at the moment. I don't know if Chris is ready to do something as well, but Rossella, let me put your Instagram here again. But
okay.
All right.
So I'm gonna what I'm gonna sing, I don't know. I'm gonna sing something that it's really, really traditional in the Italian music repertoire. And this is, I think, the oldest song that we sing in our repertoire. It's from 1898, I guess. And it's O Sole Mio. All right, so I'm gonna go. Che bella cosa una giornata sole, un'aria serena dopo una tempesta, per l'aria fresca pare già una festa. Che bella cosa è una giornata sole, ma dato sole, che bello in è, oh sole mio, sta in fronte a te. O sole mio, sta in fronte a te, sta in fronte a te.
We waking up the neighbors. Wake up, everyone.
Come on,
Yeah,
it's
I
9
wake up the
p.m.
neighbors
Way
too
too
much.
late. Way too late
Beautiful
for Australia.
voice.
Thank
My mother
you.
watching from Brazil. Look, my mother saying beautiful
Ah,
voice.
Thank you so much, Vera.
oh, it's-
All right,
Muito
it's good
obrigada.
English. Good English. She's been learning. She's been learning English.
Muito obrigada. I'm learning Portuguese.
Actually,
também.
uh,
Yeah.
Chris, actually, it's good that because now your son, right? Your son,
Yeah, Rafa. Yeah,
half Brazilian.
yeah.
Half Brazilian,
So-
right? So, and you
so-
recently been to Brazil. How was your experience with music there? Did you go just for holidays or did you actually play?
Well, that was going to see family. I mean, so yeah, my life changed a lot in the last several years, and yeah. So my wife is from Sao Paulo, and so we actually got married there a few years ago, and then our son was born. So he's about to turn 2, and I mean he's half Brazilian and 4 generations of drummers. So the kids better have rhythm.
Wow.
Like, if that kid doesn't have rhythm,
Which is a blessing.
he's not our kid.
Lots of pressure. Lots of pressure
Yeah.
on him now.
I'm hoping he becomes a doctor and then I can retire on him. But
or maybe he can be a singer, which is a bit easier for gigs in Sydney.
I know you thought I would a lot. After seeing my dad lug his stuff everywhere, I used to have to carry his marimba. You'd think I would have picked a lighter instrument, but whatever. But no, look, I mean, when I went there the first time, obviously there was family things, but of course I connected with musicians. I mean, we hired an incredible group in Sao Paulo. I hung out, we met those guys. I went up to, Rio de Janeiro, and we hung out on Lapa Street and partied out. And so, I mean, COVID has kind of condensed things, but I've made connections with some musicians there. Some of the higher, really good players there. So yeah, I know that when I go back, because I'll probably head back for family reasons anyway. My wife only speaks to him in Portuguese. She's actually an English teacher, so it's funny. He's going to be fine. But no, I loved it. I mean, of course, I mean, Brazil is an amazing place, for music. And one of the things that attracted me, I used to live and work in Puerto Rico, and, but even in Atlanta, Georgia, which is like an African-American place and stuff, music is very much a part of just everything, all the time. And I love that, it's an incredible experience. And some of the best players I've seen in a very long time are actually in Brazil. Some of the drummers in particular, like the kit players, are just on another planet. And I even remember you showing me some of your teachers from Brazil. And I was like, damn, I know I'll do some stuff one day when I go there.
Super high level musicians there.
Yeah,
São Paulo, the drummers are amazing.
Yeah, and so it's lovely, and but I also have those connections in India for a long time, and I mean I find that, but I really, it's sort of like what was happening in Cuba with the drum set players there. That no one got to hear. I mean, for a period of time, they were the most creative guys I had ever heard on the instrument, and I think Brazil is like that. Probably my top 3 drum set players in the world are all from Brazil right now. So
who are they? Give us names then.
So there's Douglas Alonso, who's an amazing percussionist and incredible drummer, but he's more known as a percussionist. And there's Keiko Freitas, who is the drummer for Gil Bosco. He's unbelievable. He's probably got the best tone I've ever heard, and he's been around ages. And then Ramon Montañez is incredible and a good hang. I mean, he's technically on another planet, but he's just the cool thing is that they're drawing on all the international music. But they also have the entire sort of Brazilian tradition to draw upon. Yeah. And so it's really coming together in a very interesting way. But everyone's struggling. Oh, and Cristiano Rocha.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting mixing pot that happened with music in Brazil. That we have this. So it's not as multicultural as Sydney, but the music is.
We don't. You'll be proud that we don't teach really much bossa nova. We're doing we're learning all all of the groups at the college you're at have learned songs like Biruarea, and they're learning some other things like forró and Gilberto Gil and this kind of stuff. So they're all having to sing in Portuguese and Spanish now. At the college you went to school.
Awesome. Just telling to whoever doesn't know, but Chris teaches in one of the most important schools in Australia, music schools in Australia, even maybe in the Southern Hemisphere, like they like to say.
About that.
It's in Australia Institute of Music, and you're teaching Latin rhythms, world music, is that kind of...
So performance studies, all kinds of stuff. So I just marked a bunch of students that were doing Eddie Palmieri and traditional Cuban songs like El Cuarto de Tula, singing it in Spanish and stuff. And then now we switch to Brazil next week. So we're looking at songs like Berimbau and doing like Upa Neguinho, some of the classics. But
amazing.
I've never been a big bossa nova fan. That was probably the only time I played Corcovado was when you happened to walk in. So I try to avoid it like the plague. But I've even included, like, some of my students have done like songs from some of the drummers. Like some of those guys from Brazil have released books with great play-alongs where they're playing like Zé Bosco and stuff like that. And so that's part of what I try to do, and some of the Senegalese stuff that's occurring. So for me, it's been great to see more and more people from overseas come here, because that's actually it was like where I grew up and how I was involved anyway. I think now it's just the scene has changed so much that we all have to figure out how we're going to move forward. But the whole planet is like that. I mean, everyone I talk to, every musician in the world is in the same boat right now. So
yeah.
Let me say, during COVID?
Yeah, let me say, guys, of course I'm enjoying so much, but I don't know about you. I forgot to ask how much time you had available for it. But anyway, we've been like more than an hour together. and I can see, Chris, that you have a tabla behind you. Maybe you want to show us a bit of it in a minute. I just want to bring Marcos to the conversation again, because he had some problems with the audio. I'm sorry, Marcos, you've been quiet for a while. And actually, Chris asked you something for 3 times and you didn't hear. So
yeah.
But anyway, so I would like to maybe, if Chris wanna start setting up something, if you can show us some example of the tabla or something, if you can, no pressure.
Sure.
But Marcos, do you have any tip for maybe South American musicians or people who like to live overseas? Is that possible to live from music here? Do you have any tips for someone who's thinking about going and living overseas?
Yeah. Oh, look, definitely you can. I think it's you need to put the time and do the work, and probably be willing to play whatever music is in front of you. Just you can be picky if you want to make a living out of it, but for me, the most important thing, one of the things I got from this experience of coming to Australia is that when you move to a different place that no one knows you, Chris mentioned a little bit of this. You need to prove yourself every single gig. You don't have much room to have a bad night, because a bad night at the beginning means that no one's going to call you again, or that band's not going to call you again, for example. So you have to be ready for be on top of your game almost every rehearsal, just in case. Then after a few years that people know you and you have a bit of a networking,
then you can start playing badly,
Then you can make those mistakes.
Like me. I don't have to play good anymore.
Yeah, we're all on that stage at the moment.
But yeah, look, I remember one of the first auditions I did was for a covers band, and the guy running it was a guy from Indonesia, and he gave me a lot of good insights about how the scene worked at the time. So having someone that is honest and blunt, if you have to, and tell you exactly how it is, for me that was the thing, because that guy told me basically Doesn't matter who you were in your hometown. Doesn't matter who you think you are. No one knows you. You don't have any reference. So you need to gain the trust by
Yeah.
playing. And at that moment, that guy didn't give me the gig. And after a year, he called me because he needed a feeling. So well, I made sure that I nailed those gigs I did after. And that's how you start. The drummer I met in that gig recommend me to another one, and that's how networking works. It's
Yeah.
maybe I'm getting old, but I'm still getting more gigs out of that net face-to-face networking that social media or anything else.
Well, especially for like bass players and drummers, you can have the greatest Facebook page in the universe. It doesn't matter. It's literally all word of mouth. So that's kind of it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
and
All right,
it's
guys. Oh,
yeah.
keep going, Marcos.
No,
Sorry.
I was gonna say that it's interesting that in the last couple of years I started getting into more composing and music for media and
Actually,
film.
that's something. You study at Berkeley College, right?
Yeah, I did a course in Berkeley for music for film actually. Yeah,
Yeah, there
and
in Boston. Was that
yeah, no, but I did it from here. I couldn't afford to
online?
go to Boston.
All
I did
right.
the online version of it,
All right,
and
cool.
yeah, but it's the same in that world. If you want to get gigs, doesn't matter what you do. It's all about who you know and who knows you, and creating those relationships. That's the deal.
All right, so I would like now to hear Chris a little bit, but I would like Marcos and Rossella to think about a funny story that happened with you here with the Australian musicians or
All right.
Australian scene. All right, so but let's hear
Okay.
Chris Fields first.
So I don't know if you know this. This is one of the many percussion instruments I play. This is tabla. So this is North Indian. One of the few that has a language. So daladrigada, katagikitin, nagadit, tetagin tarana, datuna kaktita.
Yeah,
Instrument.
amazing. Maybe you can add this Bubble Glen or Rossella. What do you think?
Yeah, why not?
Maybe you can play some Spice Girls with a tabla.
No, actually, one of my teachers turned them down.
Oh my god.
He got asked
Oh,
to
God.
play with them, and no.
Oh, really?
So,
All right. So, did you guys remember any funny story that you would like to share? So, we're heading to the end of this live talk. Rossella, maybe you have something?
I don't
Or
know
no?
now about something funny. I just could say like something that came in my mind. But it's not that funny. Actually, it's quite depressing. I don't know.
So better
Because
no. Better keep to yourself then.
let's end on a high note.
no, because like for example, last winter I've been sick literally for 4 months, badly sick with full laryngitis. Do I have to say like this? Can I say like that? And anyway, throat problems, bronchitis, and I kept doing every gig, guys. I don't know how. Coughing every time between every word. But I managed to do it, and this is the musician's life, I guess. This is really I don't know if it's fun. Like now, um if I see to that period, I could see like it was a funny thing because I was going around. I was going to sing with the tissues all the time to and coughing, and but I had to make a living from music. And if you want really to do this, I mean, you cannot stop. Otherwise, who can give you a salary? And I had to go to have that gig because otherwise I couldn't pay my rent. And it's kind of funny slash deprimente.
Another thing that I was remembering now, Rossella, about you is that you're part of the Cirque du Soleil selection
Database,
artist,
singers
right? So that
database.
database, yeah.
That's funny too, because they just got him bankrupt. I was
Right.
waiting. I was waiting
Good
for
timing.
their. I was waiting for their call, but they just, announced their failure.
Yeah.
That's
But we
amazing.
had the chance of joining them to the party when they were here in Sydney, no?
Yeah,
With our good
yeah,
friend Sophie as well, no? So we had a great
yeah.
time, but
We were really lucky. We got the chance to meet some singers and musicians from the Curious from the show that it was here in Sydney, and they asked me. I didn't do, that's the blessing about Australia for me, that I didn't ask anything, and things come from heaven till now. I don't know in the future. But like, for example, this kind of beautiful singer Sophie, she called me to go to play for their 2000 shows party, and I invited Luis to go because
thanks,
you know
Rossella. That's a good
and it
friend.
was
Good friend. Keep it doing it.
and it was a really, really great night. Really, I got into this dream, this parallel world that they live in, and it was a really, really nice experience. Well,
Awesome.
I don't know if I'm never gonna sing with them now, but yeah, it's still my main dream to be part of Cirque du Soleil.
Nice. You're gonna have like many good things in front of you anyway. Marcos, do you remember any funny story that happened?
uh,
Or
let
not
me
many,
think.
or just depressing
No,
stories?
no, no, no. I have a few. I have a few funny ones. Sometimes things, funny gigs or stuff that happen. You know, especially when you play in pubs late at night, anything can
Oof.
happen. So I've seen a lot of the weird stuff.
Mm.
But coming
A
back
lot of
to coming back
weird stuff.
to taking whatever gig, right? I remember did a gig with this band, and the drummer had a like a headpiece, like a toupee, right? So so he was playing, and first song we had to start the second song, and we were waiting for the count, and the guy says, the guy said, sorry guys, gear malfunction. He went backstage, put it back on, blew it. I don't know what he did, and came back and he played.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that was a highlight of the night. I
Wow.
don't know, like going to auditions and meeting with people that comes with these nonsense ideas of what is going to be the greatest band, and you have to be part of it. I remember people asking me to join a Kiss show where I had to, what are you talking about? How come making my own makeup? Nah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
Marcus, you will look so good.
nah, no. And what else? I don't know. Like playing on the street sometimes. Funny stories. We used to bask with two friends in Newtown and in King Street Friday nights, and this old guy came almost every single night to actually sing with us, and he was all dressed up. I was, like a alcohol and tobacco boys kind of vibe, And he used to sing "Ladies of Trump." We did this kind of jazzy Sinatra kind of thing, and he was great actually, in his own right. And we finally recorded an album to sell in our busking sessions, and
Wow,
we invited him to record. So that's
Awesome,
super
amazing.
that's
super cool.
great.
That's when we met Marcos as well. What's in a boat party that we were playing,
Yes.
me, you, and
Ye-
Rossella.
Yes,
as well. So we were playing
that
a
was it.
boat party, so it's something that's common in Sydney. You know, you go around the harbor playing. And it's always a good experience as well. No, they're playing and going with the waves
I'm
at
not
the same
falling.
time. Yeah, exactly. So I have one that I'm thinking. I thought at the beginning it
Luis,
would be
we got
funny.
it fun. We got it
I
funny. I
thought.
just remember.
Oh,
We
go
got a
then.
funny
Go you
story.
first
No, probably it's the
before you
same. Tell
forget.
yours. Tell
No, no,
yours.
you go. You go first,
No,
please.
you remember you invited me to a wedding to play for a wedding, and we discovered it was a wedding when we arrived. And it was in
Ah,
a beautiful park close to the Arbor Bridge, with the Arbor Bridge behind, and it was, an amazing location, and we discovered it was a
yeah.
wedding.
We had arrived for the gig when we didn't know it was a wedding. No one told us. Now you arrive and see,
Yeah.
is that a wedding? I think I should be
And we
dressed better.
yeah, and we to charge more so to and
Yeah, and the bride was so late that the buffet left. The buffet was there waiting, no one came. The buffet packed everything, left, and then the bride came, basically. No?
yeah,
Oh
yeah, because
God.
it was raining. It was raining, and so the guys from the buffet, they left. They took off everything and they left. But we were playing under the rain, and we looked like the musicians from the Titanic, like playing everywhere, going under the trees, or yeah, moving into the center because it was a little bit shiny, and then like that was really funny.
No, Australia things. No, I was going to say that I thought it would be funny, but now I think it was a bit depressing, which is the context. I was still the same person, but the context of being a musician in Australia changed everything. Because in Brazil, I used to be the most responsible and punctual musician in the band. So if I had like a rehearsal at 10 o'clock, at 10 o'clock I was there
Nope.
waiting for everyone to arrive. No, so then I had my rehearsal in Australia 10 o'clock. I arrived 10 o'clock, and the guy say, you're Brazilian, late. You're Latino, you're late. They said, but it's 10 o'clock. They say, yeah, but you need to arrive before and set up your gear. So I was the same person, but I went from the most responsible for the less.
Least responsible.
So just a change of context. Still the same person, it completely changed. All right, Chris, do you have any funny story to share? And we heading to the end of this conversation.
A lot, because it's been a long time. But I guess probably a funny one, because one of the things that got lucky. I'll talk particularly about Australia because it's this we're talking about. So one of the things that I was able to do was to hook up with some. I've always looked out for like older kind of musicians where I've gone to, and I was doing I did a jazz jam session with a great guitarist, Dave Smith. He's one of the great jazz guitarists in Sydney.
Amazing guy.
Yeah, so we were playing, and he goes, "Man, I'm gonna get you on this gig." I was like, "All right, cool." And I mean, I think my first jazz gig was like the Manly Jazz Festival on the main stage with him and a bunch of guys, and the main act didn't turn up, and that's a separate funny story. But then Dave goes, "Oh, I've got this great gig for you," and I was like, "Okay." So it was this guy named Edwin Duff, he passed away. He's this legendary jazz singer in Australia. He was like the kind of the Sinatra of there. And he goes, "Look, the guy's one of the best jazz singers ever, but he's a little eclectic." And that's all he told me. So we turned up. It was at King's Cross, and he came and I didn't know. I didn't even think about it, but he came. It was his 75th birthday party. I hadn't been in the country very long. I'm there with Dave and a great bass player, and we're just getting ready to play some jazz. And the guy turns up, and he's deadly serious, but he's only half dressed like Marilyn Monroe. So he had like a suit, like a crooner, but then he had a beard and like lipstick and a wig, and he just came up to me and he goes and he pretty much goes, "I used to play with Buddy Rich, so don't screw up," and starts playing and starts singing, and he was incredible. But it was just such a surreal experience, especially when I hadn't been here very long, But that's something that I've always, I've always looked for older musicians wherever I've gone, like anywhere, because then you start learning a lot about what's around, and that was, but it was a shock. It was a pretty funny experience, you know. Great music in a very odd scenario. So, yeah.
All right, so Marcos, just for us to finish as well, I'm not sure if you're ready to show some of your work. I think you might have problems with equipment, right? Yeah, just double checking.
Can you share, unless you can share a link, hang on.
All right, yeah, send
Can
me
you
it
play,
then.
can you stream a link?
I don't know. I don't know if I can.
Okay.
But I can
let
share
me,
the link. I can put the link on if you want.
let
I
me
think we
see.
should, you should put up links for everyone.
Oh, actually, we should organize a gig for ourselves because we have an amazing band here. At least for me, it would be a dream band. So, you know?
Done.
So as soon as you are allowed, actually we are allowed already. But
yeah, you can check stuff in my website. There's latest music I wrote.
Right, let me put your website here again.
I think there's links to other socials. Like I have stuff in Vimeo, that outtakes of cues that I wrote, and I don't know. You can check some of the things I've done there.
Awesome.
Which is not playing. That's all about the composing. Playing.
That's great.
I need to dig into all files and see what I've got.
But we can say it's very good. Got a
Marcos,
very good
I would like to thank you for your time. It was really great to have you here. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanna say that we forgot about your work? What about a message to your friends and something?
I would say that to anyone, if someone's seeing this thinking of going somewhere else that is not home, do it. It's a great experience. Even if you stay 10 years or if you stay 1 year, doesn't matter. If you never lived somewhere else that's not your hometown, just go and live somewhere else. It's cool. You're gonna learn a lot.
And also remind you guys here that we are live on Facebook and YouTube, but this video gonna be online forever on the YouTube channel. So whatever musicians that think about coming to Australia, they might feel inspired by our stories. So that's what we hope, what I hope with the channel. So reminding you, so Rossella's, Marcos, and Chris friends, if you wanna support this project as well, we also can subscribe to the YouTube channel, Music as Voyage. So I appreciate that. And then I would like to thank Rossella as well. Thanks for your time and for your friendship. Congratulations for your talent. Let me put so you'd like to give us a message or a tip to whoever wanna, maybe they are thinking about moving overseas, or if they are musicians.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Luis, for inviting me. I really like this kind of project because it is, for me, it would have been very helpful before coming here. So I really was looking for some info, some musicians, like who is doing this in Australia? And here it's the greatest way, I think, to share our experience so people can really, take us as example and to do like us or better and better. So thank you so much. Really, it's gonna be really helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of people.
Yeah, guys, and at Jazzamore Australia on Instagram. I think you're on Facebook with that address as well, right?
Yeah. I think I guess so.
And then also Rossella Fanelli and Bubble Glam Music on Instagram.
Soon. Yeah.
So anyway, on the description of this video on YouTube, I'm gonna put everyone's links anyway. And what about you, Chris? Do you have any final tip or recommendation or message to our friends?
I just think, look, I mean, particularly for musicians, it ties in with what everyone here has done is as a musician, you have to be courageous, and you have to take chances. And if that means you're taking chances in your life because you're traveling, you're taking chances, that's part of what we do. So, if you're an artist, your heart has to drive what you do. So if your heart tells you to go to Nepal for 20 years, go. That's it. That's all we have to go in. And don't be afraid, because Because if you're good at what you do and you're honest and you've done the work and you put in the work, you'll be fine anywhere. That's the main thing.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Chris. Actually, you've been doing this a lot. Actually, going to India was almost
Yeah.
every year. You were organizing actually those trips, no?
Yeah, and doing workshops. I've been teaching some over there, doing clinics for young musicians and things like that. Yeah, so
That's nice.
Yeah,
yeah.
but you're
I was supposed to be
definitely,
there in September, but COVID, right?
but you're definitely also, as Rossella and Marcos, a really inspiring person. And thanks to you guys, I'm still here and happy. So I would like to thank you for your talent, everyone, and for your time. Thanks so much for accepting this idea. So I hope you enjoyed as much as I did, enjoying talking to you again. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
Thanks.
anything else? I think, did I
No.
forget anything about your social medias or anything? So
All good.
otherwise, if I forgot something, I'm gonna add to the description. So, but thanks so much, everyone.
Thank
I
you.
hope
Thanks
you
so much,
enjoyed.
Luis.
And then I'm gonna try to turn it off at the same time.
Okay.
And of course, I'm gonna thank you, everyone who was watching and sending comments. So
Thank you.
Expedito, Paulo, a few of Marcos and Chris and Rossella's friends as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I appreciate your time. And thanks for the comments, everyone. Bye,
Thank you.
Chris. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Marcos.
Thank
Bye,
you, Luis.
Rossella.
See you
Bye,
soon.
Ciao, ciao,
guys.
ciao.
Bye.
See you.
Lots. Turning off in 3, 2, 1. Bye. Oops, not yet. Bye.